All right, good day everyone. This is part 2 of the listings tutorial. If you haven't already, there is a part 1 to this on how to do a list similar to this all in one swoop using data merging in both Microsoft Word, Excel, and InDesign. You're going to need all three of those. If you do not have those, just make sure that they are the most updated versions, as I mentioned before. So our objective today is to create one of these. These are special listings. These could be used for clients who say went above and beyond and decided to spend the extra couple bucks to put in their name, address, phone number, email, description of themselves, whatever. And of course, a photo of their faces. I'm also going to show you as well how to include it in your list and make sure that it moves with your listing. So you see how here it is part of it. So that way, if say you need to add a photo down here or an ad, or you want to wrap around something, if you move this up and down, it will move with your text box as well. So that will save you a lot of time. So this is, again, as I mentioned before, this is a combination of a couple different tutorials. I will link them in the description box below, and a shout out to those who taught me how to do this as well. So we are going to go ahead and close this because I'm just showing you that as our objective. So as I mentioned before, you're going to need Microsoft Excel or an Excel document, some sort of a spreadsheet, and you're going to need InDesign for this particular tutorial. I'm going to double click on here. This is my Excel document. So in my Excel document, I'm going to kind of just make that a little small because I'm going to show you something in a little bit. I just kind of made up a list right here. Ideally, if you do work with a team and they do have an Excel document, less is more. So what I like to do is I would go through and select on the original file anybody who has a special listing. You can hold down Control Command and then select different ones and just copy paste them right into one document. Or there are ways you can sort it. If you go up to the filter, there are like custom sorting. You can sort the original one and say these people at the very top of this list are all people who paid for a special addition to their list. Or if you have a wonderful person, they could easily just make this separate for you. It's totally up to however your team works. So in here you'll notice that there are a couple different blank spots that have these big red areas in them. I'm going to pretend that these people did not provide a address, or they purposely did not want to include their email. So if they did not include an email or chose not to include the email for whatever reason, it's just missing, that's where all these red boxes are. And that is actually perfectly fine because it's easy to update once we merge. If that was given to us or not given. I included also a paid section here because, again, for me, I like being able to track who paid and who did not. Every team is different. If you don't have to do that, you don't need to do that. Ideally, this would be the approved list ahead of time, so you don't have to go back in and add or anything like that, but that's okay. Now, you'll notice over here there is a new section that's called images, and this is going to be very, very important on how you fill this out. And the reason why I'm going to take some real slow step-by-step instructions of this is because I spent the last several months trying to get this to work perfectly. And I can't tell you how much of a headache this particular column is if it's not filled out properly and things are spelled incorrectly. I'm also going to show you right now how to organize this by first names or last names. So when you do the data merge, it will merge in order. So again, keeping things easy for you, I'm going to organize it by last name. Just go up here and hit the bar so it highlights the whole column. I'm going to go to sort and filter A to Z. It's going to pop up with the sort warning. That's okay. Expand the section. That just means it's going to include everything next to it. And there we go. I arranged everybody by their last names in order. Sometimes it may say last name then first name. For my list, it just said first name, last name. Doesn't really matter. You can move that around. The other thing you want to keep an eye out for is make sure there are no commas, no weird extra like letters or something way out here, because when you merge, it's going to read all of these as cells. And I don't want that. So that would just be bad. Okay, so now I'm going to go pretty slowly on this image part because, again, just from my personal experience, it took me a very long time to try to get this down pat. When you go here to images, you're going to type up at the very top up here at images, but you're going to include one extra thing. This little dash. I am totally blanking on what that dash is called. You see it a lot in like words like don't or use for foot, like 6 feet, whatever. But whatever that thing is called, I am totally blanking on it. I apologize. You need to have this that little dash thing there. Then at images, it has to be written like this. There may be another way of doing it, but every tutorial that I've come across stressed it to be this way. So dash at images. Next thing you want to do here is you're going to now tell Excel document where these photos are. Now this is very critical. I'm going to open up the images folder that I made. First, you want to make sure all your images are in one folder. You do not want your photos to be on the desktop and some on an external drive and some over here, because when we make a .csv file, you'll see how I do that. It's basically telling the file all the photos that are going to be correlated with these names are going to be in this folder. So I named it images, and then you just have to do backslash, this particular backslash, images, backslash, and then the name needs to match the name of the photo. So you see here, if I go down here to any one of these people, let's just say I'm going to go here to Malika. It needs to say backslash name of the folder images backslash Malika.jpg. Now it has to be JPG. I've tried it with jpeg.jpeg. It doesn't work. So you have to make sure it's .jpg. So now if I go here and I try to find her, she's in here somewhere. There she is. It's exactly identical. So if this is uppercase, this should be uppercase. I like doing things lowercase just because I don't know, laziness, I don't know. But name needs to match. That is very, very important. And the reason why I say that is because I can't tell you how many times a photo was either missing or I switched a letter somehow in here and it didn't match this one in here. And when I data merged, I had a whole bunch of blank ones. I had a project that had 500 photos that went with 500 entries once. And there was like 20, 30 of them that were missing, but they were all in here. But it turned out I didn't put .jpg, and I also misspelled something in here. So this just has to be exactly identical between the two. Now, some folders may say the word headshots. I did do a test earlier to see if you can change this from images to headshots. It seems to work, but ideally, I'm just going to do it this way to show you the right way that I've done it. That hasn't given me any headaches. So again, at images always has to stay the same. Name of the folder, in my case, images, / name of the photo, name of the photos. So now that all of that is all ready to go, we're going to go ahead up to File, down to Save As. And you're going to go into wherever you saved your photos. And now, again, this is going to be very, very important. The photo part, I stress just because this gave me so much headache. I am trying to save you from months of headaches. So you just go into Images, wherever you have your photos. You're going to go down here to CSV File. On a PC, there is a little, there's the name usually here, and then what you want to name it as down here. You just go down to .csv, comma, separated values. There is a comma delimited, but that's not what you want. You want it comma separated values. You're going to hit that. Make sure you're inside the image folder, and then you're going to name it. I'm going to just name it as merged document. Yes. So there we go. It is now inside here, and you'll notice that it popped up inside of my image folder. This .csv file has to be in with your photos. I'm going to repeat that again. This .csv file must be inside of your images, because you are telling this document now, essentially it's like coding, hey, I have photos, here's the folder, and you're inside the folder where they are. If the CSV file is sitting outside of the folder or on a desktop or somewhere else, it will not find these photos, and it's going to freak out at you and be like, where are they? And you don't want that. So this pops up, ignore that, that's not important. Exit out of that. All right, so now we have our .csv file, we have our photos. I'm gonna hit the spacebar to show you. That's how to preview on a Mac, on a PC, I don't remember. Ta-da, that looks pretty good. So now we're going to actually create the merged documents. Now what I like to do is, if I know a certain cell size, like the image size that I want it to be in here, I'm going to create it. So I'm going to separate that over here. I'm gonna go ahead and close that because I don't need that. I'm gonna zoom in by holding Option. I can't remember what, I think it's Alt on a PC, and you could just zoom in or just zoom in. You see all these lines here. If you do not see them, you just go up to View, Grids and Guides, Show Baseline Grid. Mine's Hide. I'm actually going to do that on this one over here because I want to see that. So View, Grids and Guides. Oh, I have it on. Oh, I'm selected on the wrong one. Grids and Guides, Show Baseline. There we go. All right, so I am going to create a box. So I'm going to go to Rectangle Tool or push the letter M on your keyboard to make the rectangle box. And I'm going to make mine about 9 lines tall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's how big I want these special listings to look. So I'm going to actually turn off my stroke, and I'm going to just give it a color blue. That's very, very vivid blue. I'm going to actually make it 50% blue. The only reason why I did this is because, again, I want this to be a certain size when I bring it in. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that now. Command X or Control X, or you can go up to File, Cut. And I'm going to go ahead and Command or Control V to paste. And it doesn't measure up quite right, but I'm going to fix that a little bit. There we go. So now it's exactly 9 lines tall. I will show you how to make it bigger or smaller depending on your entries. There are ways to do that because sometimes a special list is filled with someone's dossier. They want to have everything in there, which is totally cool. So you just have to adjust that. Now I'm going to go to the rectangle frame tool or push F on the keyboard to make it. And I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to make this actually about 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines tall. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. You can adjust it. I'm actually going to do it extra just because I like to be extra. Plus, we want to show their amazing faces that way. All right. Now, I am going to go ahead to the type tool. Now, for me, I kind of skipped this step, but I'm just showing it for the sake of example. Sometimes I like to have all my boxes here on a separate layer. So I would have the word boxes and then another layer that says copy or text, but that's completely by preference. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag now the text tool, and I'm going to fill this area in here. Now, the way that you fill out this box and set this up is going to repeat over and over between all of your other merged document or all of the other entries. So you want to make sure that it looks the way you want it on this first one. And then when you merge, you'll be able to see if it works or not, and then you can come back and adjust it, and I'll show you how to do that. So for what I like to do, I'm going to put in the word first for a first name, last for last name, company address, phone number. Oh wait, no. City, state, zip, phone number, email, and website. Yay. All right. And by default, I'm just going to leave my medium pro. I'm going to actually make these smaller at a size 9. I'm going to do the leading at 12, so that way it's a pretty nice space. And I'm going to do this. Align to baseline grid. Now, when you do baseline grid, that means that all of these wordings are going to line up right on top of this ruled paper, kind of like what we had in grade school. So that's good there. So now I'm going to format it. I don't want it to look exactly the same like that. I actually want the first and last to be boldened. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to bold that. Company, let's just pretend I want that to be white, and I want that to be caption. I don't know. Address, city, state, zip. I'm going to pretend I like that the way it is. Phone number, let's do magenta, because I want it to be a different color. That is a very odd color combo, but whatever. And email and website, I'm going to have them the same. And I'm going to do it as italic. So that's how I want everything to look. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to character styles. Now, you're going to need two things opened over here. Character styles, and you're going to need data merge. If you do not see those over here for any reason, you just go up here to Window, Utilities, Data Merge, and that will pop up over there for you or somewhere, and you can just move it however you want. And the other thing you're going to need is styles. So I put in character styles, so that way I have it over here. So character styles, utilities, you can see it under Window if you do not have it over here already. So character style. So now I'm going to create a character style. And what a character style does is say, when I merge things, say I want this to be a different font or a different size or whatever, it will change all of them at once, rather than me going in and copy pasting and having to manually edit every one of them. This is just going to save you some extra time. So you're going to go create new style, double click. I'm going to use this as name, double click for company, plus company, address, city, state, zip. I'm gonna put that as info. Phone number. I'm going to go ahead and do that over here and put in phone. And email and website are both going to be the exact same style. So email and website. So again, what I'm doing is assigning these styles. So if I want to come back in and change it on all of them, I have them already saved over here. That looks pretty good. So now it's time for the data merging. Yeah. I'm going to go over here to data merge. Click that. Click the down arrow right here. Right next to it, there's these little lines. You just hit that, select data source. And remember I mentioned before, this .csv file is inside of my photos. Again, you want to navigate to wherever you saved it, desktop, wherever you saved it, so that way you can get to that. Merge document. Push OK. This will pop up. You just say OK, but if there's something else in there, it should say comma, ASCII, Macintosh, because I'm on a Mac, MAC PC on a PC, and that's left unchecked. So say OK. And now look at that. All of our information is in here. Now, you're probably wondering, where did this come from? So again, if I open up and just preview the first line, you see how here it says first name, last name, company, blah, 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 blah. That's the first cell, A1, all the way over, is brought over from that exact same data source. Let me click over here. You see how you have first name, last name, company, city, address, state. All that was in the first line. That's why that's very important to know what it is that's underneath there. So now we're going to assign these. I'm going to select first name. I know this looks a little redundant now fixing it up, but I kind of just did it this way just because I like to see how it looks beforehand. Last name, company, address, city, state. So address. And technically speaking, you could just skip that part and do this here because it will come up as normal, and then you can adjust them by highlighting on it and then doing your bolds and whatnot. Totally up to you how you want to do it. That just cuts out an extra step. City, state, zip code. Now phone number, phone, double click, email, and website. Now, something interesting I wanted to point out is two things. One, if I zoom in here, you see how there is a little comma outside of these brackets? That comma is going to repeat between everything. And it doesn't have to be a comma. It could be city of the state. Whatever the city and state are going to change. And the words of and the are going to repeat over and over and over. So anything outside of these little brackets is going to repeat on every single page. So that just kind of saves you an extra step. Again, a really cool trick. If, say, your list is all in the same state. In my case, they were from all over wherever they're from. So it was going to change over and over. Now you know that these are linked because, again, there's a number 1 right here. And you have your brackets. If, for whatever reason, there's a 2 or something on here, that chances are means that I linked in more than one place. So like if I say instead of zip code, I want phone number, now you see 1. So now these are both going to put in a phone number. So undo that. Command Control Z. So far so good. I like how this looks. I like the fonts. I like the colors. I assigned my character styles. Now what I'm going to do is select all of it. And I'm going to do Command or Control G to group it. The reason why this is important is because now it moves as one unit. And you notice that the copy here aligns to base grid because I told it to. So if I move it around, it's not going to line in between. It's going to align nicely at the bottom. If I was not grouped, Command Control Shift G to ungroup, and say I wanted to move this around when I merge. The background is moving, but the rest of my text is not. So I'm going to group that, Command Control G. And that is now going to repeat on every single thing we do, every single entry we do. So now you can even do preview. Oh, I forgot. I have to actually link the photo. Control Shift G, select this box. And you'll see here in images. Now, I know I filled that in properly because the word image comes up. If I did not write in this properly at the top with that little dash @ images and I put something else in there or I left it blank, I would not see that little image box in there. But it came in perfectly. And you know it's linked because there is, again, the dashes with the word image in there. So now if I hit preview, look at that. So again, I'm going to select Command Control G to group. So now it's one unit. If I hit preview, I can go through. Now you notice that these photos here, they are actually a little bit too short as the box itself is too tall. There is a way to fix that all in one swipe, and I'm going to show you. So now after I look through those, I'm going to go to create a merged document. Hit that. And actually, I'm going to zoom out so you can see all of my entries at once. It's gonna look really cool. This is a very satisfying moment when you know you filled everything properly. Create merge document. I want to merge all my records, multiple records, drop down arrow. These just leave on. Preview multiple record layout. hit that once. If there's a lot of entries, it may take a minute. And there they are. Now, it's not officially merged yet until I push the OK button. This is the time when I want to do some adjusting. So, as I mentioned before, I am now going to go through and fix up these pictures. So, I don't like the fact that there's that weird cutoff up there in the bottom. So, I'm going to go here. By default, it says fit images proportionally. I'm going to go down to fill frames proportionally. So now it kind of brought them in. And I'm going to do center in frame. Yes, they are Sims. They are my Sims. All right, so you also notice a thing here too. Notice here he has a weird blank spot right there. That's because he did not include a phone number. That's okay. Again, some people did not include something. That is all right. You just go to remove blank lines and empty fields. And it doesn't look quite lined up, but that's okay. I'm going to fix that in just a second. So when you click the remove blank lines, that again just brings everything up so you don't have weird spaces in between. Fill frames proportionally is turned on. And now for me, I don't like seeing them all squished together like that. I'm going to actually give them just a little bit of space. 0.125. 0.125. It's under multiple record layout between the columns and between the rows. And that looks good. And you see how these little plus signs are? That's just saying that there is some runoff information. That means the emails are really long, or a website's really long, or something is pushing it down. That's okay. Again, that's just a little bit more editing. I like how this looks. It doesn't line up exactly like I like, because sometimes when I do data merging with photos, it kind of bumps up my, it does some funky stuff, but I can fix that. So everything looks good. I'm going to push OK. And you'll see here this pop-up says overset text report. That's okay. It's just, again, saying that some of my entries were a little bit too long. That's fine. You just have to go through and edit those. So I just hit close. Now I'm going to zoom in. Whoa, there we go. So now I'm going to go through and check to see how each one of them looks. So see how they're all grouped now? If I move this around, it lines them all up perfectly. So sometimes when you do data merging, I don't know why it kind of gets a little funky like that. It bumps it up sometimes. Just hold down the shift key, select them all, and I'm going to line them up to here. And you'll notice there's a bunch of weird blank ones here. Chances are, when I did do the CSV file, it thought that there was something in these. That's fine. That's not important. You just delete them. So again, they look lined up. They do not. So I am going to go through, and I'm just going to slowly bring them down so that way the top of this blue box matches. And notice again, because I did the align to baseline, when I do this, all of my text lines up exactly the way I want it to line up at. The whole reason why, the more I think about it, it did this is because I added that 0.125 spacing between each one of these, so it kind of freaked out at me. And I was like, what are you doing? Cool. All right. So now, again, you can go through, look at them. Do they look really nice? Blah, 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 blah. I'll zoom in on this guy, for example. Okay, I don't like the fact that there's runoff text, so I'm going to double click on this. And I'm going to move this inwards a little bit. This is a tracking tool. What it does is it squeezes the letters together. I've been told you don't want to go more than 40, plus or minus 40, but that is just what I've been taught. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, it's just a matter of editing, however you want to edit your files individually. And even though that they're already grouped, you just double click on it. Just double click. And now I'm selecting my text box. So again, you can go through and edit it however you want. And then say for whatever reason, I want his name to be a different color. I can go up here and edit it individually and it doesn't change anything on anyone else. But remember I mentioned before with the character styles, if I wanted to change everybody all at once, I can go to name. I'm going to change the color. Let's do red. Now you see how every single one of them is now red. So if you edit character styles, it affects everybody. If you edit individually, you can do that too. So see how his name right here, Matherson, is now on a second line. I'm going to squish that so it looks pretty. So there's a little bit of finessing that goes on here, but again, it's completely up to you on how detail oriented you want it to be. I am very detailed oriented. So I tend to go through and make sure that they all look pretty, lined up nicely. So what's interesting here, and now I'm going to show you, is you have two documents. You're now going to have your original document here that was your initial one that you created. That's the template. Essentially, think of it like a template. And then over here, you now have your merge document. I save both. That's just me. So I'm going to go up to File, down to Save As, Desktop, Special Listings, and I'm going to call this one the Listings, and I'm going to call this one I don't want to call it template. I'm just going to call it design. I don't want to call it template. I'm just going to call it design. That doesn't matter because I'm not going to need it in the next part. I just like it because if I want to remerge, everything's already merged. That doesn't matter because I'm not going to need it in the next part. And I just like it because remember how I mentioned earlier, everything's already merged in here. All you have to do is go down here to data merge again. Remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. Or you can remove it. And then remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. And if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. A little side note. And if you do, for whatever reason, you want this to be merged, everything's already merged in here. You can't. And if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. And if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. And if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. It did for a while. I would have to go in and if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. And if you do, all right, so now we have our merge documents. Everything's already merged. I'm going to go ahead and do a file save as. So now, and if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. And if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge. So remember, I treat these as individual projects. Again, if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. And I have a folder dedicated to. And if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. Combines both. And if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. Now, placing. And if you do, remember how I mentioned in a perfect world, everything's already if you know ahead of time who you want to have, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. You can highlight them and change the color. And if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's already merged in here. Let's start with her. And if you do, remember how I mentioned want to remerge, everything's and highlight. Let's start with her. I'm going to double click on the text. I want to remerge everything. I'm going to go back over here. Let's start with her. Delete that. I'm going to double click. Go over here. I want to remerge everything for her. Let's start with right here. I'm going to double click because I grouped it. On the text, I want to remerge everything. So Control Command C to copy. Double click. Double click. I want to remerge. Command Control V to paste. Let's start with her. Now it's going to come in a little funky like this. That is completely fine. Everything. You just have to do the back arrow. I'm going to double click. And then remember we did 9 spaces. To remerge everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's start with her. 9. I'm going to double click. It actually might be on the text. I want to remerge everything that extra. Let's start with her. I'm going to double click. Notice how when I click on the text, I want to remerge everything moves along with it. Let's start with her. That's because now this image is inside of my text. I want to remerge everything. So let's start with her. So I'm going to do inside of my text box. I'm going to go up here. Delete. Let's start with her. Is inside of my text box. Copy it. So let's start with paste it. Same thing inside of my text box. back arrow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is inside of my text box. I'm just pushing the enter key. I'm not doing any special enters. I'm literally just hitting enter. Which is inside of my text box, and I'm lining that up. So far, it looks pretty good. Let's start with, and I can do that again. Inside of my text example over here. Let's just pretend that. Let's start with. This person is inside of my text box here. Command Control C. So let's start with. Which is inside of my text box. Back arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which is inside of my text box. Yep. There we go. Let's start with. Which is inside of my text box. So let's start. And literally, this is just enters. Is inside of my text box. That's in here. So let's start with. So now that looks good. Now again, if this looks a little weird to you and you're like, I don't like how that looks, just double click on it. I can is inside of my text box. Enter. Edit them individually if I wanted to. Same with the photos. If for whatever reason they look a little too far away and too close in some, just double click on the picture. Look a little too far away. You want. And the same thing goes over here. You can do that in both of them. Look a little too far away, and now I'm going to go ahead and close that. And now I'm going to go ahead and close that. So that's how you do the list. So again, if I move this up here, and close that. And say I wanted to put a picture down here or an advertisement, whatever I want right there. If I keep doing this, notice it's pushing all of these cells along with the list. I'm going to push W so I can preview it, and that's how this is looking so far. I am really, really liking this. I'm going to push. That's how this is looking. Now again, as I mentioned before, organization is key. So now when you look at your folder itself, if I was to organization is key. So when I copied pasted those merge files, organization is key. So InDesign works with linking. So it needs to know where is this original file located. So I try to keep things as organized as I can. Organization I have a special listing folder here, and I have my tutorial here. Ideally, I would have it moved in here. The special listing inside this tutorial one, so all of it lives inside the same thing. So if for whatever reason you open up this merge document here and it's like, whoa, there's a big X here, or if something gets funky, that folder is inside of the same thing. It's all inside of the same folder. So how I work is, I have listing, and when you go inside listing, you would have, your special listings, you can have your copy. Again, you can organize it however you want. So again, organization is key. And again, if something goes weird or photo misses, ends up missing for whatever reason, and you have those little question marks that pop up there, that usually pops up. So has no idea where that file is. Everything sits inside of the same folder. It's not one is on your C drive, one's on a D drive, one's on an E drive. Again, the more organized you are, the better this will be. So that is how you do this. Hope you enjoyed this, and hope how I kind of helped you a little bit. Again, this is not including any plugins. I've been searching literally for like 7-8 months trying to find a way to do this without plugins. So there are tutorials out there, and there are other people who show how to do this. So I'm practically skipping this entire tutorial because they have plugins that can do it for you, which is great. But for my particular job, I can't do plugins unless I get a prior approval. And this is just a lot easier to just kind of teach you as if you don't have any plugins in your InDesign program at all. So I hope you enjoyed this, and that is how you do this. And yeah, if there are other ways to do this that are easier for you, feel free to. There are other ways to do below. And that's it. The end.